Nebraska football does not have a problem with main character syndrome. What am I talking about? We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate College Football HC, a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today.
All right. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy game week. Congratulations. Pat yourselves on the back. We made it. This is week one. We'll have a week one press conference today. And yeah, we'll set things up for the season. I'm Connor Happer from 1620 The Zone. Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. UTEP's coming to town this week. We'll have plenty of time to get into the, X's and O's breakdown of UTEP. We'll do that plenty this week. Don't worry. But with the beginning of this week, we'll kind of set up, some preseason stuff, some how does it sit now, and probably recycle some old topics from the off season. What have we learned? Things like that. But something came to light. A term came to light on Friday, and that is what you said there right at the start, Mitch. The main character syndrome. Nebraska.
I'd never heard of it.
Apparently does not have this. I haven't really heard of it either. Explain this.
Well, so if you are afflicted by main character syndrome, you believe that you are the main character at all times in some kind of an ongoing narrative. In this case, it would be the narrative of a football team or a football season. So Matt Rhule brought this up, and he told a story in his Friday media availability, which was much more lively than I think any of us expected. There was a lot to discuss, and it wasn't a snooze fest or anything like that. At the end of 4 weeks of camp, the coach still had some things to say. So he told a story about Isaiah Nair, the senior wide receiver, Brian Buschini, and the senior punter, and Prince Will Umen-Yellen, the sophomore jack linebacker, who were all wearing number 18 in practice. And it became clear toward the end of camp that somebody needed to change. I don't know 100% sure why someone needed to change. It must mean that Nayor or Umen-Yellen are going to be running down to cover punts this year, which is possible.
I can see Nayor being a gunner on the punt team, I guess.
Sure, he's one of the fastest guys on the team. He's got some size. Or even Prince Will being somebody like in the mid-level punt coverage. Anyway, there's the possibility that more than one of them will be on the field at the same time. You don't want to have three frontline players with number 18, I think is the bottom line. Nayor told his position coach, Garrett McGuire, that he would be happy to switch to any number that was available. He'd wear number 99. He didn't care. He was in this for the team. Well, then the next day at practice, Buschini showed up wearing number 13. He's coming back for his third year as a starter. Buschini switched to 18 in the spring of 2023, so a year and a half ago, to honor Brooke Behringer. He had worn number 95, Buschini had in his first season. So there was some significance behind this number for Brian Buschini. And of this act, Matt Rhule said, this might seem like a little thing, but it's not to me. He then said that he loves the integrity and the character of all the players involved. And he said they don't think it's about them. So there's where the main character syndrome comes in. If you think it's all about you, which would seem to be a problem with a football team, then you have a main character syndrome, and that is not afflicting these Huskers. Matt Rhule likes that, believes it is a good sign for this upcoming season.
First of all, it got me thinking, Nebraska ought to do something special with the number 18, not retire it forever, but
it should go to a certain player.
Yeah, some kind of special honor for the guy who wears it. I don't think that'd be a bad thing. Anyway, side topic, but that was topic for June. But I guess we're in season time now. I should have thought of that one then. But no, I mean, that tracks with pretty much everything we've heard about this team. I think it can come as it's not a negative to have to not have main character syndrome as Nebraska, according to
you
Matt
don't
Rhule.
want it. I don't think you want it. I think that's an egotistical thing.
You want dudes who want the ball though. Like you want dudes who want the ball and who want the play to come to them and all this stuff. I've made this analogy before, but there's a difference between the shortstop who will make a play, when it's there for him. But if he's sitting there before and the guy's up at the plate in the ninth inning with 2 outs and the bases loaded and the shortstop's thinking gosh, I just wish this would go to somebody else. That's not what you want. You want the ball to come to you. You want the guys who want the ball to come to. I don't want it to go to anybody else. I don't trust that guy in right field. I trust me. I think Matt Rhule is trying to find those guys. So I think there's a
balance.
A little bit. There's a balance for sure.
There's a balance between main character syndrome and then, as you said, the athlete who is trying to hide within the story. And Nebraska wants guys who want the ball. Nebraska does not want guys who feel like they're the only ones who can get it done. They don't want guys who are the shortstop and run in front of the second baseman to make the play. We've seen in the past some freelancing on the Nebraska defense among players who are considered some of the better players on the defense. And there's been freelancing where you think you're going in a direction to make a play and the opponent has other ideas and perhaps game plan for that and saw that this was a tendency, and the next thing you know, it's a 60-yard touchdown. So football is a sport. Now, I think you can have main character syndrome in basketball. Don't you think? I think main character syndrome is maybe would be much more kindly received on a basketball court.
It all kind of depends on how your team is set up. If I think back to Nebraska basketball, not this past year when they went to the NCAA tournament, when they should have made it and they won 20 plus games that year, James Palmer was the guy. I think James Palmer wanted the ball in his hands, and I don't think anybody, I think it was best for the team that everybody knew that James Palmer was the guy. So there's a weird dichotomy there. You want to raise the ceiling of your team as well, so you can have as many of those guys out on the floor as possible. But when it all signs point to one guy, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. Everybody knows their role.
We might also be slightly misinterpreting main character syndrome. I think it's more of a psychological state. Have you seen the movie The Truman Show?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So if you think that everyone is there to look at you and that you're on display and everyone else is just a supporting actor in the story of your life, and maybe there's cameras around that are catching them as they react to you, then I think that's more of the clinical definition of main character syndrome.
Okay. But Truman's problem was that he didn't figure that out for 30 years. He didn't figure that the show was about him for a long, long time.
Yeah. Good point.
I think they want the point here is they want selfless guys, and guys who would give things up for their teammates. It is a 100% genuine gesture, which probably doesn't need to be discussed for 9 minutes on a podcast, but here we are.
Rhule is I'm going to now spin this forward. Rhule is ecstatic. He's very happy about the level of buy-in that he's getting from the Nebraska players, and more importantly, the older players on the team. He talked also on Friday about how he believes that there's actually 2 teams that he's coaching, and one of them is the team of veteran players, and they sit in the front of the meeting room. Many of them do. And he's talking to these guys. I believe he mentioned Isaac Gifford and Deshaun Singleton. He mentioned having a conversation with MJ Sherman about how MJ's understanding everything on a level that's advanced beyond what it was a year ago. You could put Dylan Raiola in this category because Dylan in Rhule's assessment of Raiola here at the end of camp. Now camp's over. Now at the beginning of the season is part of the reason that he won the job is because he understood the whole package. It isn't just that he had the strong right arm and the ability to make all the throws. He had to show more. So I think he's on that team. You better hope he is. He's on that team A. And then there's a second team that they're coaching, which is a bunch of young guys who they're still bringing along. That's the depth. That's the future. But it's also the depth. And so right now, from that veteran group, he's got tremendous buy-in. He's got a bunch of guys who are in it for more than themselves, who don't see themselves as the main character, even if they are the main character at times. And they've got integrity and a selfless nature about them that he believes bodes very well for this 24 season.
It finally feels like they have a really nice setup for a really great development track for young guys. I mean, how often do we talk about them not turning 4-star recruits into, what they're supposed to be? This is the way you do it. You ease them in slowly, you get them a part of the culture, and you have them learn from the older guys who, by the way, didn't all have to stick around. So selfless act number 1, they're here, so that's important too. So no, it does feel like it sets up really well. I thought that was a pretty intriguing comment and an interesting way to kind of look at things.
When we come back after the break, we're going to look back at week 0. What a week 0 it was in college football. And there was one game where there was a player who became the main character and had to come through, and he did over in Ireland. So that's coming up next, along with much more talk about Nebraska. I do want to remind you, if you're watching us today on YouTube, to please subscribe and like the show. It's important for us to help bring in more viewers. And on all of the podcast listening apps, don't forget to subscribe there to give us a rating. You can also email us at lockedonneb@gmail.com. We received a few questions last week, and we're going to make a mailbag show out of our answers later this week. I think on Thursday, Connor, is what I'm thinking about, what we're thinking about for that. And we'll do that as often as needed. So keep bringing the questions. Appreciate what we've got so far. We'll be back after this. Okay, hey, Locked On Nebraska fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up about a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love. It's called Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of a college football program like Nebraska? From recruiting players and hiring staff to overseeing training camp, handling scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. So the question is, will you be able to handle the pressure? Here's what I really like about looking at this game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games, and your strategy will not only determine the success of your season, but it will shape the future and the legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is free, has no ads. It's 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Nebraska fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, and it will get your team off to a strong start. Just download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Okay, welcome back. It is week 1. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic here with Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone in Omaha. Well, we made it through the final weekend, Connor, without a full schedule of football, but we did have a football game, and it was nice to see. Did you watch Georgia Tech upset Florida State?
I sure did. As is tradition with like the first game that I don't care about, it is, I start it, like I'll watch College Game Day. I'll be locked into that. I'll watch the start of the game, and then it'll be on in the background for a while. And then if the game needs my attention late, which this one did, I will come back. And man, that's an ugly way to start the season for Florida State, who did nothing but yell all offseason about how they got left out of the playoffs. So tough look for them.
Yeah, I was mowing the yard at the beginning of the game, caught a little bit of game day. Took the crew over there. Coach Saban was over there in Dublin.
Pat McAfee was hammered the whole time.
How did that happen? How's that okay? But what?
I don't know, man.
It is Ireland. It is Dublin. You got to partake in the culture. There was a little bit of that 2 years ago when Nebraska visited Ireland, just a bit.
Yeah, a little.
So Florida State 21-21 against Georgia Tech. Noles heavy favorites, couldn't get off the field on defense toward the end. Here comes Aiden Barr, a kicker for the Ramblin' Wreck, and boom, through the uprights from 44 yards. How about that? A kicker wins the first game of the year. I will pose this question: could Nebraska have done that if it was in that situation in the same moment?
I don't know how good anybody feels about their kicker ever, but I certainly feel less good than I want to in this situation about Nebraska's, but not any less comfortable than I have for about the last, I don't know, 7 or so years. It's been a mess all the way around. So I don't know. Hopefully you could just find a guy who can make enough kicks to keep you alive.
Rhule, he reiterated on Friday that he's uneasy about the kicking situation, but he said it's not you and Matt Rhule and 90,000 others who plan to be at Memorial Stadium on Saturday. He said it's not because Nebraska's missing kicks in practice. They're making the kicks, but he's uncomfortable or uneasy or unsure because he doesn't know who the kicker is going to be out there against UTEP. Tristan Alvano is still coming back from injury, and they have John Hull, who's doing a nice job, but this one might actually be decided on game day. He said this is not like a theatrics kind of situation. They're not doing this to create drama or anything. Why would they do that? I mean, seriously, why would they? So it's a little unnerving that they might take this thing down to like pregame warmups to see who's actually got the stronger leg or the more accurate leg when they're out there at like 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Still chasing 3, Mitch. Still chasing 3.
Literally all the way down to kickoff, chasing 3.
All the way until the game starts. So that's not comfortable. No.
Yeah. So, all right. The second topic on our mind, we told you about the first topic as we went through a psychological analysis of the Nebraska football program. The second topic on our mind is Heinrich Haarberg. We're coming back to you. Heinrich was the 8-game starter last year. Matt Rhule said on Friday that Heinrich Haarberg is in fact the number 2 quarterback. We knew Dylan Raiola was the number 1 quarterback. He did not want to reveal anything about Haarberg having a role on this team other than being the backup quarterback. But then in a subsequent answer, Rhule went on to say that Heinrich himself wants to do more than be the backup. And Matt Rhule said he believes Haarberg could have success at the next level as a safety, as a linebacker, as a tight end, as a wide receiver, and as a tailback. Maybe that gives you a little bit of a preview of where we may see Heinrich Haarberg this year for Nebraska. He's 6'5", so I'm not sure about him playing tailback for Nebraska this season. That's a tall safety too. But what do you think about those other possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder, because are we both in agreement, Mitch, that we're going to see him at a position that's not technically quarterback this year?
I think so now. I think so now. I'm more convinced of that after Friday when Matt Rhule he went there.
So I don't know what that looks like. And I definitely don't think I would probably doubt that we see him in the first week. Maybe you just keep that a little close to the vest before you play Colorado.
Also, how much time have they had to practice it? He told Haarberg and Danny Kaelin about the quarterback decision on Wednesday before practice. Or was it Tuesday? It was Wednesday before practice. And then they told Dylan Raiola as Dylan walked off the field at the end of practice, right when the post went out on Twitter.
Yeah, he sent out a tweet. I thought it was intriguing that he told Heinrich first. He goes, this is what we're going to do. So, I mean, he clearly was, really invested in being the starting quarterback this year, but we all said it. I mean, he had to have seen the writing on the wall. So now his drive can kind of go somewhere else. How do I help this team? How do I get on the field? Is it just being the backup quarterback? Is it stepping in when Dylan Raiola loses his helmet or he gets hurt for a series or whatever it might be? Or is it doing more than that? And I do think they want to use his athleticism. He was the focal point of it all last year. But gosh, the only example of this is that we have was the catch he had in the first game last year. And I don't know. I can't really vision it. Is he standing back there as the quarterback and then just kind of running a different offense, a different version of the offense, or is he literally lining up somewhere else? It's intriguing.
I think what we'll see at the beginning, and this may be in the Colorado game, just my guess. Obviously, I'm not in on the game plan. Is we'll see him in some wildcat situation against Colorado. Now, is Dylan on the field in that moment? I don't know. I think that's probably something for week 4, week 5 after a bye when you have some time to kind of you do something. You start it in the most simplest form, and then if that's okay, and then you work on it and you work on it and you throw another wrinkle in, and at some point there's a wrinkle where Dylan's like lined up at wide receiver and the ball goes to him and he throws it back to. I mean, it's black flash 40 run reverse whatever. Mm-hmm. But at the start of this, you want to put these players in position to have success. And I think running Haarberg on some wildcat against the Buffs, maybe in short yardage, goal line, or wherever, would be the most effective way to ensure success.
The argument to him that I've heard, because we've talked about this now for quite some time, the argument to it is like, okay, you're going to put him in, but you're taking Dylan Raiola off the field. Do we really want Dylan Raiola off the field? And I think that's where they can get creative a little bit. And the truth of the matter is, Mitch, like, he can do stuff that Dylan Raiola can't do, or they don't feel comfortable with him doing. Exactly. Yeah. So I think there is a role for him in that regard. Are you tipping your hand a little bit? Kind of, but he is obviously a threat to both throw and run the football. So I think there's absolutely some things that he could do here.
You bring him in and you put him in a wildcat, and you hope that the opponent begins to sell out on him running the ball, because then if his tight end is wide open over the top, you really get a big play. Heinrich Haarberg has a great arm, a strong arm. He's not the refined quarterback that Dylan Raiola is, but he can absolutely beat a team that's cheating when he has an opportunity to throw the ball because they think he's in there to be a wildcat. So there's a lot of different ways that you can build on it, but I think it starts with him coming in and just running the ball and getting a first down and then getting out and building some confidence in that package.
I do too. So we'll see what happens. So we're on record here. We'll do our predictions later in the week and all that stuff, and the bets and stuff. But I guess I would say probably no Heinrich Haarberg week 1. That'd be my guess. Zero Heinrich Haarberg.
Well, he might play here we go. He might play in the fourth quarter because Dylan has his helmet off and his feet up on the bench.
Is that Kalen time though?
No, because Kalen's just going to play in 4 games. They're going to find 4 games for him. I mean, if this thing stays on the tracks, he's going to play in 4. This is 1. It could be 1, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that. I think you would like to get him maybe in some. Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. I'm thinking Ohio State's maybe. No, this could be one of them. We'll see.
Okay, that's a lot to talk about still.
That's going to be a prediction for Friday. We're gonna go the second. Will Danny Kalen play
over under a half a play for Daniel Kalen? All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and get to our third topic one more time. Like and subscribe to the show. Help us out on YouTube. Helps drive the show. We appreciate when the comment sections get lively too. So send those our way. We'll be back after this. All right, it's Happer here for 5 Hour Energy. I'm a new father, Mitch, and you know what I need? Energy. So 5 Hour Energy is a perfect sponsor for this show.
Good for old fathers too.
And for old fathers, yeah, and who need to change batteries or figure out what's going on with cars. So if you're ever tired after lunch, you're not alone. If you're tired after your radio show ends at 2:30, you're not alone. Research shows that 70% of us hit the wall after lunch. You work hard. Let a 5 Hour Energy shot help you leap over that wall instead of crashing into it. With 0 sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. A 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. Why not? On the site, you have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You can choose the flavors and it'll be delivered to your door. Head to 5 Hour Energy, the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Once again, 20% off your order with the code LOCKEDONCFB. Offer valid until September 30th on one order. Cannot be used with other promotions. Not good on subscription orders. Head to 5hourenergy.com. All right, let's get to the week ahead. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll have reaction to Matt Rhule's first weekly press conference of the football season, which will be happening today around lunchtime. We'll hear from Tony White, Marcus Satterfield, the coordinators. We'll hear from several Husker players. What's it going to be like to go out in front of the sea of red for the first time will be the question a lot. I'm so excited to hear those questions and answers. Thursday, we're going to have a mailbag episode, as Mitch mentioned. Already, we've received some emails, so we'd appreciate some more. LockedOnNEB@gmail.com. Send your questions in before the season starts, and we'll try to make this a recurring segment as well. You can find us on Twitter at LockedOnNEB or at Mitch Sherman and at Connor Happer. Okay, the third and final topic on this Monday as we set up week one. We do not want this to get lost in the shuffle. Sometimes Matt Rhule says something that sounds like it goes on a t-shirt. He actually does that quite a bit. Like, if we die, we die. He's actually really good.
That's a good t-shirt. Have you? Is there a t-shirt? I'm expecting to see some. If we die, we die. At the stadium on Saturday.
Friday, he told a story about coming off the field after practice with Dylan Raiola, Nebraska's offensive line coach. They were talking about a 9-on-7 drill that Nebraska was doing. It was physical, more than what Rhule thought, or what he even might have expected. And he talked about that for a long time. And then he said this: all of that is just words. And here's the t-shirt part. Practice doesn't mean you're going to win a game. Practice just gives you the opportunity to compete. Now, it's a little wordy for a t-shirt, but I do think it is, some
version of that.
Something to remember, because that is not always been the attitude around here, for sure.
I saw it getting thrown around by some former players, and it seemed to be one of those things that when he said it, like a light bulb went off for a lot of people. Like, heck yeah, I like that. Like, other coaches, whether they were football coaches or coaches of other sports, were like scribbling that down in their notes app to tell their team someday. Practice doesn't mean you're going to win a game. It just gives you the opportunity to compete. And that's one of the off-season themes with Nebraska. It's like, we all know that this team has worked hard. But doing everything that they've done and all of this talk that we've heard, it only puts them in a position to be able to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. Like, there's no good that comes from thinking they've actually accomplished something, that they've actually done something toward their end goal by just putting in the hard work, because none of this is guaranteed. None of it's guaranteed on Saturday against UTEP, and certainly none of it's guaranteed moving forward in the weeks after that.
So you're saying if you practice well and then you don't play well, you shouldn't be confused afterwards after the game because you practiced well all week?
Right, we've heard that.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. We didn't that's not the way that we practiced that. This was the greatest week of practice that we've had since I've been here. And yeah, there's Nebraska, and I'm not just getting on the previous coach. Like, the recent Nebraska football history, like the last 2 decades of Nebraska football history, is littered with examples of this kind of scenario.
Entitlement?
Is it entitlement?
We practiced. We had a good practice. We
deserve to win. We deserve to win because we practiced well. Yeah, that's entitlement. And I do believe that there has been some of that mindset within the Nebraska football program.
No doubt about it. It's 100%, and it's good to hear it over and over and over again, because so sometimes you get in the game, it's like, oh, when this happens, this usually happens at practice. Well, sorry, like I always say, you only get the 12. You only get the 12 tests the entire year. That's what you're graded on. So it's really truly like great to hear that. They have to go out there and they have to do it. Have they put themselves in position to do it with roster changes and and player acquisition and the hard work that they've done and the, physical like changes they put their bodies through. Yeah, of course they have.
That the jersey number swaps.
Yeah, jersey number swaps. There's a lot of good looking college football teams who don't win jack, and so you don't want Nebraska to be one of those this year.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's kind of there's a lot of like psychological talk here in these last days before camp. We talked about the stuff early in the show about what was that even about? The main character syndrome, and here we are talking about entitlement and practicing hard, and this is kind of where you're at in the days before a first game. We went through a whole segment on Friday about how they just need to get to the games, and I think we're kind of back in that mode.
It's noteworthy for this program though. Like there's some mental stuff going on with this program, so like I think it's noteworthy to talk about.
Yeah. What as we close this thing, what are you looking for Monday? I mean, we heard from Matt Rhule on Friday. The weekend was not anything like the last two weekends. They had Fan Day on Saturday. They did the Boneyard Bash Saturday night, had a mock game at some point on Saturday. Sunday was a conditioning day. It was in-season conditioning. Today was the day after a game. And I'm sure that Corey Campbell and whoever else was out there running things got after those guys like it was, they just played a game yesterday or Saturday. So what are you looking for on Monday to hear from Matt Rhule?
Well, I think along the lines of what we were just talking about, I mean, there's a lot of people this offseason who have Nebraska pegged as a team who's going to win a lot more games than they did last year. Whatever that means, whether it's a dark horse for the playoff or, be in it in November, like whatever it is, there's a lot of people, and Rhule has echoed those sort of thoughts. Hey, I think we can be pretty good, but it's different when people are telling you that you're good before you've done anything. So like, I do wonder how the team has handled that idea. You don't know until you play, but I do think that there's an emotional part of this that is really important. Like you got people telling them that you're good and they haven't been to a bowl game in 7 years. So I think there's something there.
I've got a piece out today, Monday, on The Athletic that kind of delves into some of this, and it's like a turning the page on the offseason. And here we are, we found ourselves at week 1, and Nebraska walks in the door to this bigger and stronger, not just Big Ten with 18 teams, but a bigger and different looking world of college football where everywhere you turn your head, there's going to be teams competing for the college football playoff. And Nebraska is either ready for this and they're capable of stepping up to the plate and dealing with the pressure of this moment, or they're not. And you're going to find that out in this season. So go check out that story about how Nebraska fits into the new world of college football with stakes that are different than the last time we saw two teams duking it out for the national championship. Of course, there was a game in week 0, but for all intents and purposes, the season gets going this week. There are 3 Big Ten games on Thursday. There's 2 on Friday. There's 12 on Saturday, and then 1 on Sunday night when USC and LSU play. So can't wait for the week ahead. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On College Football podcasts. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron that is now here. You can find the link to the Locked On College Football podcast in the description of this show. So no need to search. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.